Welcome back. Political panel time. Who's here with me at the family table? Matt Gorman, Republican strategist, former senior advisor to Tim Scott's presidential campaign. Chuck Rocha with the hat and the fetching vest, CBS News contributor, former senior advisor to Bernie Sanders. We need vests that say the takeout on it.
That's what we're doing here.
All right. Very quickly, from your perspective, Chuck, 7 House Democrats voted for DHS funding, no ICE reforms, even though that was the position of the House Democratic leaders. What does that tell you?
All 7 of these members represent districts that are majority Republican in the last election cycle. They're worried that Republicans are going to run ads against them, saying that they're soft on crime and soft on the border.
Is that a good call for them?
I don't think so. I think people are sick and tired of what they're seeing in our streets, but it's their call, and that's why they did it.
Matt?
7 of them have brain cells at least, because we're going to run ads saying that they want to abolish ICE. We've seen this movie before. It's not like this is theoretical. 2020 abolished, defund the police, also abolished ICE back then, 1.0. And so we're going to play the hits, I guess, for the House Democrats.
Do you think, Matt, there is any political liability for Republicans broadly in the midterms for the optics of the last 2 weeks in Minneapolis?
There's a lot happening on Donald Trump's end. He's facing a pile of impeachment papers that he can't brush aside, and it's clearly eating at him. We're not just talking about a single resolution from some obscure progressive. No, this is a serious, comprehensive plan made up of 7 articles of impeachment already filed in the House. We've got formal statements from bar associations calling his actions blatantly illegal, urging Congress to consider impeachment as a necessary step if other checks don't hold up. And there are members of Congress going so far as to label his actions in Venezuela a kidnapping and an illegal invasion that deserves him being removed from office. Impeachment papers are flooding in from every direction, legal groups drafting them, lawmakers submitting them, and constitutional scholars backing them up. Meanwhile, Trump, who always claimed he was untouchable, is giving off a different vibe. He's reportedly telling his fellow Republicans that if they lose the midterms, he's definitely facing a 3rd impeachment. The confidence he used to project seems to be fading fast. He's definitely aware of the real danger he's in.
Election is about turnout. It's about motivating your base to vote. About 40% of the voters don't show up in a midterm election, and that's what they're trying to do. And I think the Republicans want to they're desperate to try to get their message out. And I would remind my friend Matt and all my Republican friends is Joe Biden said the unemployment was at an all-time low, stock market was at an all-time high, and he created all these jobs, but he couldn't break through. Sometimes it's tough to be the president.
You spin that you did pretty well in the midterms. That's why he ran again. That's why you had the debacle you had in 24.
True that.
I want to ask a very simple over-under question.
Let's talk about the challenges Trump is facing, because this isn't just any political chatter. It's serious stuff with real implications. House Resolution 353 was introduced by Representative Srianadar in April 2025, and it officially impeaches Donald John Trump for high crimes and misdemeanors. This isn't wishy-washy accusations or political jabs. It outlines 7 specific articles of impeachment, each supported by findings and legal references. The first article accuses him of obstructing justice, violating due process, and failing to execute the laws properly. The second calls out the usurpation of Congress's appropriations power. The third article talks about abusing trade powers and international aggression. Then there's a charge for violating First Amendment rights, followed by creating an unlawful office. The 6th article is about bribery and corruption, and the 7th, which really stands out, refers to tyranny. Yes, that word is actually included in there, accusing the president of, well, tyranny. So there's this official resolution that really spells things out. It's not just a casual mention. It goes as far as accusing Trump of serious stuff like contempt of court and messing with the legal system. It even claims he's been undermining the courts as laid out in Article 3 of the Constitution, which is a pretty big deal. This resolution paints him as a constant threat to the Constitution, not just someone who goofed up in the past. It suggests he's a real danger if he stays in power. What's interesting is that this isn't just a symbolic move. It's a real piece of work that could potentially get pushed to a vote if those in charge decide to act. It's all neatly drafted and documented, just biding its time for the right political moment. With each new scandal or court ruling that surfaces, the pressure builds even more, making it more likely that this resolution might see the light of day. Now let's dive into what's stirring up all this talk of impeachment. It's not just one issue, it's a whole mix of crises all hitting Trump at once. The military operation in Venezuela, court decisions highlighting illegal retaliation against democratic states, and the flouting of judicial orders are all piling up. The pattern of misconduct stretches all the way back to the beginning of his 2nd term. Each of these events fuels the case for impeachment, touching on various aspects of House Resolution 353. Together, they sketch the picture of a president who seems to think he's above the law and the Constitution. Let's focus on the Venezuela operation since it's really at the center of the impeachment push. Back in early January, Trump decided to initiate a military strike against Venezuela without even getting the go-ahead from Congress. He managed to capture President Nicolas Maduro and his wife and whisked them out of the country to face charges in New York. Trump announced that the U.S. would take charge of Venezuela during a transition, acting as if it's perfectly acceptable for America to run another country by military might. The backlash has been pretty intense, with voices coming from all over. For example, California State Senator Scott Weiner described the operation as an illegal invasion and coup, labeling it yet another impeachable action. He suggested that Trump's true intention was to grab Venezuela's oil for U.S. companies that were in his good books. So, there's this situation where a prominent figure labeled the capture of Maduro as a kidnapping. She made it pretty clear that this operation goes against both international and U.S. law. And she firmly stated that Trump needs to be impeached. It's interesting because it's not just politicians who are saying this. Legal institutions are getting involved too. The New York City Bar Association, which is one of the top legal organizations in the country, issued a formal statement calling out the Venezuela action as blatantly illegal under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. This part of the Constitution specifically gives Congress, not the president, the authority to declare war and authorize military force. The Bar Association went on to warn that if Congress can't rein in Trump's unlawful actions through legislation, then they must resort to their remaining power, impeachment, to deal with a lawless president. Those are their exact words, making it clear that a major legal institution is urging Congress to consider impeachment as a solution to Trump's behavior. This isn't just political banter. The organized bar is reminding lawmakers that it's their constitutional duty to take action. Connecting this to recent court rulings just adds more weight to the argument. For example, on January 13th, a federal court determined that Trump had illegally blocked clean energy grants to Democratic states because of how their citizens voted. The judge pointed out that Trump's administration specifically targeted these states for partisan retaliation. This directly ties into Article 2 of the impeachment resolution, which deals with the usurpation of Congress's appropriations power. Essentially, Congress is the one that decides how federal funds are distributed, and the president doesn't get to redirect those funds just to punish his political rivals. By doing that, he's violating the separation of powers and misusing his position for personal grudges. The court ruling clearly documents this abuse, providing the solid evidence needed for those pushing for impeachment. They can point to the judge's findings and assert that this isn't just speculation, but a proven fact. And then there's the broader issue of defying court orders. Trump's administration has repeatedly shrugged off judicial rulings it disagrees with. In one case involving deportations, a judge ordered the administration to halt deportations under the Alien Enemies Act. Despite this order, the administration kept up the deportation flights, detaining people in harsh conditions abroad without regard for the court's ruling. This isn't just a disagreement about policies. It's the executive branch flat out refusing to follow the judicial branch. Legal experts are saying we're facing a real constitutional crisis, and honestly, they're spot on. Our whole American system relies on the executive respecting court orders, even when there's a difference of opinion. When the president decides to ignore judges, the rule of law just crumbles away. That's exactly what Article 1 of the impeachment resolution is accusing him of: obstruction of justice and failing to carry out his duties properly. House Resolution 353 lays out 7 articles of impeachment that detail the extent of Trump's misconduct. Let me break those down a bit so you can see how thorough this case really is. Article 1 is about obstruction of justice and violations of due process, pointing to things like his meddling in investigations, his misuse of the pardon power, and his refusal to follow court rulings. Article 2 highlights how he's stepped on Congress's ability to manage spending, particularly when it comes to retaliating against Democratic states, as the court has recently pointed out. Article 3 deals with abusing trade powers and aggressive actions on the international front, mentioning stuff like the Venezuela invasion and using tariffs as weapons against allies. Then there's Article 4, which tackles First Amendment violations. This covers his attacks on the press, monitoring of protesters, and retaliation against critics. Article 5 outlines the creation of illegal offices, like those secretive operations filled with loyalists that bypass regular legal checks. Article 6 dives into bribery and corruption, claiming he's used his position to benefit himself and his business ventures. Lastly, Article 7 hits on the idea of tyranny, arguing that his overall behavior amounts to an assault on our constitutional government. What's important about this resolution is that it's not just throwing out complaints. It brings detailed findings for each article, cites specific laws and constitutional rights that he's broken, and lays out a clear pattern of conduct that shows he's unfit for the office. Plus, it's filed as a privileged measure, which means it can be brought to the floor whenever they want, without needing committee approval or leadership's nod. Sure, right now with Republicans holding the House, that vote might not pass, but the resolution is there. The case has been made, and the papers are ready. Trump knows he's in a tight spot, and he definitely didn't hold back when he addressed his fellow Republicans at a retreat on January 6th, 2026. He made it pretty clear, winning the midterms is essential. If they don't succeed, he firmly believes they'll concoct reasons to impeach him again. He stated outright, "I will be impeached," and he was being dead serious. Having faced impeachment twice before and come out the other side thanks to Senate Republicans not going for a conviction, he understands that a Democratic House wouldn't hesitate to pull that trigger again. This time around, though, the stakes are higher. With court rulings, the fallout from Venezuela, and 7 articles already drafted, the case against him would pack a much stronger punch. Now let's take a moment to unpack what this all means for both Trump and the country. Those impeachment papers aren't just a symbolic gesture. They pose a genuine threat to his presidency, one serious enough for him to privately alert Republicans about. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for getting a grip on where things might lead us in the next couple of years. The midterms in 2026 will play a pivotal role in deciding if Trump can ride out his second term or if he'll have to face the toughest kind of accountability a president can go through. To break it down, impeachment needs a simple majority from the House of Representatives. If the Democrats manage to take the House in November 2026, impeachment becomes nearly inevitable. The resolution is already on paper, and the groundwork has been laid. Democratic leaders would face immense pressure from their supporters to take action. This time, unlike previous impeachments, which could be brushed off by Republicans as just political games, there's a solid legal basis behind these claims, with court rulings outlining his illegal actions and formal statements from legal entities calling his behavior outright unlawful. The evidence trail is tough to refute. Democrats wouldn't be pushing for impeachment just because they dislike Trump. They would be doing so based on clear findings that he broke the law. And then there's the Senate to think about. To convict and remove him, they'd need 67 votes. That's a 2/3 majority. Even though the Democrats have a slight edge in the Senate, they'll definitely need some Republicans on their side if they want to kick Trump out of office. Chances of that happening? Well, it's not very likely, but the scenario has shifted a bit since his first term. Republican senators are genuinely concerned about his actions regarding Venezuela. 5 of them even backed the war powers resolution aimed at keeping Trump in check. A few are feeling uneasy about how he's ignoring court orders, and some are starting to worry about the political fallout from defending behavior that's becoming tougher to justify. If just a handful of Republicans decide to break away from the party line, it could change the game, even though a conviction still seems pretty far-fetched. Now let's consider what an impeachment trial would look like, even if it doesn't end with Trump being removed. It would lay all the evidence out for everyone to see: the court rulings, the findings of wrongdoing, the details about Venezuela, and all the instances of stubbornness and pushback. The Chief Justice would oversee everything, and there would be witnesses testifying and documents presented. It would serve as the most thorough public examination of Trump's actions during his second term that you could imagine. Even if the Republicans ultimately choose to acquit him, the evidence will remain a part of the record. The American public would see it all, possibly influencing the outcome of the 2028 election in ways we can't really guess right now. There's more to this than just the impeachment pressure, though. Trump's dealing with a whole bundle of challenges. He's got court decisions flashing a spotlight on fraud and misconduct. His immunity defense is crumbling at the Supreme Court, and there are enforcement actions looming over his business operations. On top of that, the documents coming out from the Epstein files are damaging, and former allies like Mark Meadows are contradicting his stories. Protests are erupting over immigration policies, and he's facing international backlash regarding his stance on Venezuela and climate issues. All these crises are interconnected, each one making the impeachment case stronger and adding to the mounting sense that Trump's presidency feels like it's under attack from all sides. The walls appear to be closing in. And let's not forget how Trump usually responds to such pressure. Throughout his career, he's had this tendency to escalate things when he feels cornered, to strike back even harder, to openly defy authority, and to double down on the very behavior that's getting him into hot water. We're in truly uncharted territory right now, and it's kind of astonishing when you think about it. No president has ever faced impeachment 3 times, and never before have we seen a situation where there are active court rulings pointing to illegal behavior while impeachment papers are on the table. On top of that, a formal congressional resolution is accusing a president of tyranny. That's something we've never seen. This whole situation means that the constitutional safeguards meant to prevent presidential abuse are being put to the test in ways we haven't experienced before. And depending on how it all plays out, it could significantly impact American democracy for years to come. The decisions being made now will set important precedents for what future presidents can get away with, or what they can't. It's critical to see whether the limits laid out by the Constitution still mean anything, or if they can just be brushed aside by someone who's willing to go all in on defiance. Now let's talk about the implications for us as citizens. The midterm elections in 2026 are poised to be some of the most significant we'll ever witness. These elections won't just decide which party takes the reins in Congress, they'll also determine if a president can actually be held accountable for clear abuses of power. If the Republicans keep control of the House and Trump hangs on, then those impeachment papers are likely to go nowhere. That sets a troubling precedent. One where a president can ignore court rulings, retaliate against enemies, and start conflicts without any serious constitutional repercussions. On the flip side, if the Democrats take it, then we see impeachment become a real possibility. The evidence would be clear for everyone to see, and the question of whether Trump should be removed from office would make its way to the Senate. This really puts a spotlight on the importance of your vote and your participation. What happens in this constitutional crisis hinges on what we, as everyday citizens, decide to do come November. Bottom line, impeachment papers are flooding in from all sides. There's already a 7-article resolution awaiting action in the House, with charges ranging from obstruction of justice to tyranny. So it's getting pretty serious out there with the calls for impeachment against Trump. Various institutions are stepping up, urging Congress to take action against what they're calling a lawless president. We've seen court rulings that really highlight illegal retaliation and abuse of power, and it's pretty intense. Members of Congress are labeling the Venezuela operation as a kidnapping that absolutely warrants removal. Now, here's the kicker. Trump is apparently telling Republicans behind closed doors that if they lose in the midterms, he'll be facing impeachment for the 3rd time. He's not brushing off this threat as just party banter. He seems to understand the gravity of the situation. The paperwork is stacking up, and the arguments are being laid out. He realizes that the only thing standing between him and some serious constitutional consequences is Republican control of the House. If you're interested in keeping up with the growing impeachment pressure on Trump and want to get the scoop on what these resolutions entail and how the political landscape is shifting, subscribing to this channel is a must. We'll be on top of these developments as they unfold. We're here to break down the constitutional implications and the political twists of this situation. Even when Trump and his supporters try to dismiss it all as a partisan witch hunt, we're committed to sharing the truth about what's really happening. So hit that like button, share this with a friend who needs to know what's up, and join our community because the truth matters. Catch you in the next one.